I'm Michelle, 30, female. I live in a quiet, upscale condo in downtown Seattle, sharing my space with my golden retriever, Buster. By day, I am the founder and CEO of Apex Structural, one of the most sought after boutique architecture firms in the Pacific Northwest, though to my extended family, I'm just Michelle who draws houses. Here is a glimpse of what's coming. My cousin brought her new boyfriend to a family barbecue, and he spent the entire afternoon explaining my own job to me, culminating in him telling me I wasn't talented enough to work at the very company I built from the ground up. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. It was the first sunny weekend of May, which in Seattle is practically a national holiday. My Aunt Linda was hosting a barbecue at her place in Bellevue. I usually looked forward to these gatherings. My family is large, loud, and generally supportive, even if they don't quite grasp the scale of what I do for a living. I started Apex Structural 4 years ago. We specialize in sustainable, high-end commercial retrofitting. It's niche, it's lucrative, and it keeps me incredibly busy. But because I don't design skyscrapers that pierce the clouds or celebrity mansions that end up in magazines every week, my family assumes I'm a freelance drafter working from my kitchen table. I've never felt the need to correct them with balance sheets or employee counts. I like being just Michelle when I'm off the clock. I arrived with a potato salad and a bottle of wine, looking forward to a relaxing afternoon. I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, hair in a messy bun. My standard off-duty uniform. Michelle, over here. Aunt Linda waved me down. You have to meet Sarah's new man. He's in your field. Great. Talking shop was the last thing I wanted to do, but I plastered on a smile and walked over. Sarah, my younger cousin, was beaming. She had her arm linked through the arm of a tall, sharp-jawed man who was wearing a polo shirt tucked in just a little too tightly. Michelle, this is David, Sarah said, practically vibrating with excitement. David, this is my cousin Michelle. She's an architect too. David looked me up and down, his eyes lingering on my grass-stained sneakers. He offered a limp hand. Architect, that's a broad term these days. What do you do? Residential remodels, kitchen extensions? His tone wasn't curious, it was patronizing. It was the voice of someone who assumed that because I was a young woman in casual clothes, my career must be casual as well. Something like that. I said, shaking his hand briefly. Mostly commercial work these days. What about you? David puffed out his chest. I'm between firms right now by choice. I was with Harding and Lowe for 3 years, but their vision was too limited for me. I'm looking for a place that can actually handle my level of avant-garde concept design. That sounds ambitious, I said politely. It is. He nodded, taking a sip of his beer. It's a tough market. You probably struggle with client acquisition, don't you? Most small-timers do. I blinked. I manage, well, it's all about networking. He lectured, leaning in as if imparting ancient wisdom. You need to get your name out there. Maybe once I'm settled at my new spot, I can throw you some overflow work. Draftsman stuff. It pays the bills. I smiled, a tight, thin thing. That's very generous of you, David. Don't mention it, he said, turning away to laugh at something Sarah whispered. I took a deep drink of my wine. It was going to be a long afternoon. As the barbecue progressed, it became clear that David wasn't just arrogant. He was loudly, confidently incorrect about almost everything. I sat at a picnic table with my uncle, eating a burger, when David sat down opposite us, uninvited. So, Michelle, he started, loud enough for half the party to hear. Sarah tells me you're working on a project in the South Lake Union District. I am, I said. It was a 40-story eco-retrofit of a historic industrial building. A massive contract. Be careful down there, David warned, wagging a hot dog at me. The zoning laws for residential are a nightmare. You don't want to get slapped with a code violation because you didn't read the fine print on setback requirements. It's actually a commercial retrofit, David, and the zoning was cleared 6 months ago. He scoffed. Commercial, that's a big bite for a freelancer. You sure you aren't in over your head? Structural loads for commercial use are different than residential. You can't just use 2x4s and hope for the best. I felt a vein in my temple throb. I'm aware of the structural requirements, David. I have a team of engineers. A team, he used air quotes. You mean like freelance guys you find online? Risky, very risky. You know, I'm applying to Apex Structural next week. You've heard of them. I choked on my burger. Yes, I've heard of them. Top tier. David said, eyes shining with reverence. Best in the city for sustainable commercial. That's where the real architects play. Not to be rude, Michelle, but the stuff they do is leagues above what you're handling. I'm looking at a senior lead position there. I wiped my mouth with a napkin to hide my grin. Senior lead, that's a high-ranking role. I'm qualified, he said dismissively. They need someone with vision. I've seen their recent portfolio. It's good, but it lacks spark. I'm going to go in there and show them how to really utilize space. Is that so? I asked. And who are you interviewing with? HR first, obviously, then the partners. I doubt I'll meet the CEO right away. She's supposed to be some reclusive genius or something. Probably keeps to herself. Probably, I agreed. Well, good luck with that, David. Apex has very high standards. He laughed, a barking sound. I'm not worried. When you have talent, the doors open. You wouldn't understand the pressure of that level, honestly. Stick to your kitchen renovations. Monday morning arrived, and I walked into the Apex structural offices with a renewed sense of purpose. My office is on the top floor, a glass, walled sanctuary overlooking the Puget Sound. Morning, Michelle. Robert, my HR director and one of my first hires, greeted me as I walked past his office. Good weekend. Enlightening, I said, stopping at his door. Robert, do we have an applicant named David? Let's see. David Henderson. Robert tapped on his keyboard. Henderson. Yes. Application came in late Friday night. Applying for the senior design lead position. Let me see it. Robert looked surprised. I usually only step in for the final round of interviews for senior roles. But he handed me the tablet. I scrolled through David's resume. It was a work of fiction. He claimed to have been a lead project manager at Harding and Lowe. I knew the partners at Harding. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to an old friend who worked there. Roll check on David Henderson. The reply came 2 minutes later. David, he was a junior associate. We let him go because he kept ignoring code compliance to make things look cooler. Why, I looked back at the resume. He listed concept visionary as a skill. He claimed credit for 2 buildings in downtown Seattle that I knew for a fact were designed by a completely different firm. Robert, I said, handing the tablet back. Schedule him. He looks okay on paper, I guess. Robert said, squinting at the screen. A bit flashy. Oh, I don't want you to interview him, Robert. I want to do it. Robert's eyebrows shot up. You, for a first round. Trust me. I said, my voice cold. I have a personal interest in this candidate's vision. Set it up for Friday afternoon. Mid-week, Sarah called. She wanted to do a couples dinner, her and David and me. She knew I was single, but she insisted I come anyway so we could bond. I agreed, purely because I wanted to see how far David would dig his own grave before Friday. We met at an Italian restaurant. David ordered for Sarah without asking her, which already set my teeth on edge. So, David said, swirling his red wine, big day coming up for me Friday. Oh, I asked, feigning ignorance. What's happening Friday? Interview at Apex, he said, his chest swelling. I've already mentally spent the signing bonus. I'm going to ask for a corner office. That's confident, I said. It's realistic. I looked up their current roster. It's a lot of safe, boring choices. They need a disruptor. That's me. He looked at me with pity. How's your week? Draw any nice porches? Actually, I'm preparing for a major expansion meeting, I said truthfully. David laughed. Expansion? What, you hiring an intern? Look, Michelle, I like you. You're Sarah's family, but let's be real. You're playing in the sandbox. Apex is the NFL. You'd never get in there. They eat people like you alive. You're too. Soft, I repeated. Yeah, you lack the killer instinct to run big projects. You have to be willing to crush people. You're too nice. You're a customer service architect. I'm a visionary architect. Sarah giggled nervously. David, Michelle does really well for herself. I'm sure she does fine for a freelancer, David said, patting Sarah's hand. I'm just saying there are levels to this game. If I get this job, when I get this job, I'll show you what real blueprints look like. I took a slow bite of my pasta. I look forward to it, David, really. I can't wait to see you in action. Maybe I can get you a tour of the office once I'm running the department. He added benevolently, show you what a real firm looks like inside. I'd love that, I said. Friday, you said? Friday at 2 p.m. Perfect. Thursday was a busy day. I had meetings with city planners and a site visit, but my mind kept drifting to Friday at 2 p.m. I called Robert into my office. For the Henderson interview tomorrow, I said, I want it in the main conference room, the glass one. The fishbowl, Robert asked. We usually use the small breakout rooms for initial screenings. I want the fishbowl, and I want the blinds up. I want the whole office to see. Michelle, is there something I should know? Robert asked, leaning against the doorframe. You've got that look you get right before you fire a contractor. Let's just say this candidate has some misconceptions about our company culture and about me. Understood? Robert grinned. I'll have the portfolio projector set up. Also, I added, tell the receptionist to let him wait for 20 minutes. Let him sweat a little. Let him soak in the atmosphere. You're the boss. I went home that night and picked out my outfit carefully. No jeans and t-shirt this time. I chose my sharpest tailored navy suit, the one that screams executive, and my highest heels. I wanted there to be absolutely no confusion the moment he walked through that door. Friday, 2:15 p.m. I was sitting at the head of the long mahogany table in the main conference room. My back was to the door, facing the panoramic view of the city. I had David's resume on the table in front of me, alongside a red pen. I heard the door open. Mr. Henderson, you can go in. She's ready for you. The receptionist said. I thought I was meeting HR. I heard David say, his voice confident, perhaps a little annoyed at the wait. You're meeting the owner, the receptionist replied, and then the door clicked shut. I swiveled my chair around slowly. David was standing there, holding a leather portfolio, a confident smirk plastered on his face. He was wearing the same suit he'd worn to the dinner, but with a different tie. He froze. The smirk slid off his face like sludge. He blinked once, twice. He looked around the room as if looking for the real interviewer. Then his eyes snapped back to me. Michelle, he stammered. What? What are you doing here? Did you? Are you applying for a job too? I didn't smile. I didn't stand up to shake his hand. I just folded my hands on the table. Please, have a seat, David. He didn't move. I don't get it. Is this a joke? Sarah put you up to this. I'm here to see the CEO of Apex Structural. Sit down, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it had the weight of authority that I use when a construction foreman tries to cut corners. David stumbled to the chair opposite me and sat. He looked small in the high. Backed leather seat, David, I began, opening his file. You told me at the barbecue that Apex Structural is where the real architects play. You told me that I'm a kitchen renovation freelancer who would never get in here. Michelle, He started, sweat beading on his forehead. Allow me to introduce myself properly. I interrupted. I am Michelle Archer, founder, owner, and CEO of Apex Structural. The reclusive genius you mentioned, that's me. David's mouth opened, but no sound came out. He turned a shade of pale that was almost impressive. Now, I continued, picking up his resume. Let's talk about your qualifications. You claim here you were a lead project manager at Harding & Lowe. Yet, a quick inquiry tells me you were a junior associate fired for code negligence. Care to explain? I was. It was a misunderstanding, he squeaked. And this project? I pointed to the portfolio he had placed on the table, the Vertex Tower. You claim to design the facade concept. Yes, he said, trying to regain a shred of bravado. I did. That's fascinating, I said, leaning forward. Because I designed the Vertex Tower. My firm built it 2 years ago. My signature is on the blueprints filed with the city. Silence. The air conditioning hummed in the background. You walked into my family gathering, insulted my career, mansplained my own industry to me, and then walked into my office with a resume full of lies, claiming credit for my work. I closed the folder with a snap. Michelle, come on, he tried, forcing a laugh. It was just banter, family banter. You know how it is. I didn't know it was your company, if I had known. If you had known, you would have lied more carefully, I asked. David, you said you wanted to see a real architect in action. Well, here I am, and my decision is final. I stood up. The interview is over. You're not qualified for a senior lead role. Frankly, based on this performance, I wouldn't hire you to pour coffee in the break room. Please leave. But Sarah, leave. He scrambled up, grabbed his portfolio, and practically ran out of the room. Through the glass walls, I saw Robert watching from the hallway. He gave me a subtle thumbs up. The fallout was immediate. My phone started blowing up before David had even cleared the parking garage. It was Sarah. How could you? He came home crying. He said you humiliated him for no reason. I didn't text back. I called her. Sarah, I said, cutting off her screaming. He lied on his resume. He claimed credit for my work, and he spent the last week insulting me to my face. Did he tell you that? He said he was just joking around. You didn't have to ruin his career. I didn't ruin his career, I said calmly. He did that himself when he decided to be a fraud. And honestly, Sarah, you deserve better than a guy who needs to put others down to feel big. There was silence on the other end. He really lied about his job, she asked, her voice smaller. He was never a project lead. He was a junior associate who got fired. He's a con artist, Sarah. It took a few weeks for the dust to settle. Sarah broke up with David a month later when she caught him in another lie. Something about owning a sports car that turned out to be a rental. The next family barbecue was awkward for about 10 minutes until Aunt Linda walked up to me. "So," she said, handing me a beer, "I hear you own a big fancy company downtown." I smiled. "I do, Aunt Linda." "Well," she clinked her bottle against mine. "Good for you, but I still need you to look at my deck. It's sagging." "I'll take a look." I laughed, "but my hourly rate has gone up."